What I'm about to share with you is one of the oldest manifestation technologies on the planet. Mystics taught it, ancient scriptures hint at it, quantum physics proves it. It's not visualization, not vision boards, not more goals. It's identity shifting. If your current reality isn't matching your potential, it's not because you lack discipline, strategy, or effort. It's because the version of you trying to create success is not the version of you who can sustain it. Years ago, I had 2 homes in foreclosure, maxed out credit cards, and no logical path out. The shift happened when I stopped trying to get success and became the identity of the man who already had it. And from that internal shift came everything, a $40 million business, global stages, and a life that looks impossible from where I started. Not because I forced different results, but because I became the person those results naturally belong to. And in this episode, I'm gonna show you how to do this, psychologically, neurologically, and energetically, not by trying to change your life, but by becoming the person who naturally lives the life you've been trying to create. Let's go. All right, guys, I'm really excited about this episode. I do an annual retreat once a year with my high-level coaching clients. They invest somewhere between $70,000 to $150,000 to work privately with me. I invite them to my home once a year, and the centerpiece of this year's teaching was actually what I'm going to be teaching you right here, right now, for absolutely free. Now, this is the first time I've ever done a whiteboard walkthrough of this because this is that critical if you actually want to start controlling your reality and having what I call a powerful living experience. Don't worry if you're listening on the audio platforms. I will walk you through, and you can do this at home. In fact, I recommend that this is an episode that you not only watch, but you come back to and you complete this structure exactly the way I'm teaching it to you right now. I have to tell you, after over a decade in personal growth, studying everything from neuroscience to behavioral psychology to consciousness theory to field theory to metaphysics, spirituality, all the different technologies out there, in my own journey of going deep into things like traditional medicinal ceremonies using ayahuasca, psilocybin, psychedelics, this structure, if I could distill it all down, is the way to actually go from where you are to where you want to be. And it doesn't matter if you want to make more money. It doesn't matter if you want to heal your body. It doesn't matter if you want to get clarity on your purpose, a deeper relationship with God. Whatever it is that you want to create, this is the way to do it. And this is one of the most confusing topics in personal growth or really in advanced spiritual principles, which is the idea of like, how do I actually become something, become a person that has something before it materializes in my life? In other words, if you've been in personal growth for a while, you understand that if you want to make more money, you align yourself with abundance, but that's hard to do if your bank account shows almost zero as a balance and you've got mountains and mountains of credit card debt, right? If you're struggling with a chronic health challenge, how do you focus all of your attention on being vibrant and healthy and flexible and well if that's not your day-to-day experience? This identity shifting structure is going to actually answer that question. So we're going to get into it, and I'm going to show you the structure here. What I am encouraging you to do, if you want to do this on your own, is to actually take a piece of paper and draw a line right down the middle. So you've got a left side and a right side, and then on the right side of the piece of paper, cut a horizontal line right through that right-hand column. So we're essentially going to be using 3 quadrants. And what I want you to do is I want you to start in this bottom right quadrant, talking about your goals and dreams, listing out 5 to 7 goals and dreams. What we're really starting to do here is, what are the things that you're striving to create that the future version of yourself would have created? What are those things? So I put some examples on here for you. These are just some of mine. Actually, some of these have already materialized, but these were mine at some point in the past. And so I wrote down 5 things here. So for me, for example, it was I want to have $1 million in my bank account, right? This was what I wanted when, again, I was broke, had 2 homes in foreclosure, didn't have a penny to pee in. But $1 million in my bank account was one of my goals and dreams. Another goal and dream I had was a healthy body. If you've listened to other episodes, I struggled with chronic health conditions for a long time. I had mercury toxicity, mold toxicity, all kinds of mitochondrial dysfunction. I was in a lot of chronic pain and a lot of discomfort. So what I wanted was to feel healthy, right? This is what I wanted. Another example, I wanted to become a successful entrepreneur. Now you could get more specific around that. Maybe you want to start your own business. Maybe you want to be, respected in your workplace. Maybe you want to be an authority in some sort of topic. It doesn't really matter what it is. But for me, I wanted to become a successful entrepreneur, right? I wanted to have a $10 million business. And 1 million monthly listeners on my show, on this show, which we actually have today, but in the past I didn't have it. Another thing that you might want, which is what I wanted, was connected to God. I want to have a personal relationship with my higher power. So in the bottom right, I want you to write out the things that you want. Now, before I give you the framework for identity shifting, I'm actually going to tell you how I discovered this. So it was Christmas a couple of years ago, and I ran an online challenge, a big marketing challenge. And man, I put my blood, my sweat, my tears into running this online challenge. I hired a consultant, worked with a friend of mine, applied the best scientific marketing principles, completely redid the webinar, all of the email sequences, all the landing pages. And it wasn't just me, I worked with my team on it. And the year before, we sold around 100 units of the product that we were offering, one of my courses during the challenge. And so this year my goal was 250. I'm like, guys, we're going to crush it. Like everything I know about marketing, this is now in alignment with best practices. This was right before the Christmas holiday a couple of years ago. We ran this free 5-day challenge, and on the 4th day and the 5th day, we opened up the opportunity to enroll in this program. Again, remember, my goal is 250. It was like a $2,000 program. 250 people coming into the program year before, and for the previous few years, we did around 100. So on day 4, we open what's called the cart. People can start enrolling in the program. Day 5, we wrap up the challenge, and usually by day 5, I know how my numbers are. And then there's another 48 hours after we close out this challenge where people can continue to enroll in the program, right? It was Monday through Friday, and then boom, Sunday, it's over. So by the end of day Friday, I expected to have around, 150 people in the program, and we'd close it out at 250 or more by the end of the weekend. At the end of Friday, there were 18 people who had enrolled in the program. And this was devastating for me. Like I had no explanation for it. I did everything I knew how. I did everything by the book. I've learned to become a very good marketer. It made absolutely no sense to me. In fact, it was literally starting to crack my ego because I was really looking for what did I do wrong? What could I have done better? Which, by the way, is a very core pattern of mine. Like I'm not doing enough. There's something wrong with me. What could I do better? So by Sunday, when the cart closed, we had about 30 people enrolled in the program. Now get this. In previous years, I had 100 people enrolled in the program. I'm shooting for 250. I've only got 30. And it's really messing with my mind right before the Christmas holiday. So I go downstairs and I'm about to share with my wife kind of the numbers and where we're at. And I go into the living room and it's Christmas time. And this was the second year with my newborn, my toddler. And so it was really cool. We had sort of those choo-choo train and Christmas setups, manger scenes around the Christmas tree, real presents, decorative presents. There's Christmas carols on. My wife and my mother-in-law are finalizing, wrapping some presents for some relatives that are coming in. And I come down and I'm sitting in the living room and all I can think about is what the hell did I do wrong with this challenge? So there's two realities that are taking place for me right now. One is this reality of Christmas and, holiday cheer and the fact that I've had this beautiful new addition to my family and my son and my mother-in-law and my wife have done such an amazing job of setting up the living room when we have family and guests coming in town. And the other is I cannot believe that this marketing campaign failed so miserably. And so I realized in that moment, I had this question. I was like, well, what if I had, and I came up with an arbitrary number, $10 million in the bank. Let's just say enough money where I don't have to worry about anything, right? If I had $10 million in the bank, how would $10 million David be reacting to this experience of running this online marketing campaign and it not going the way that I would expect it to go and being here in the living room at Christmas with all this going on? And I was like, well, $10 million Dave, meaning a Dave who wasn't worried about not having yet achieved the success that he wanted, a David who felt financially secure, a David who knew that no matter what happened, he was going to achieve the bigger vision and the outcomes that he had in his life. What he would be doing right now is telling his wife and his mother-in-law what an amazing job they did with all the Christmas decorations. What he would be doing right now is playing choo-choo train with his son. What he would be doing right now is singing Christmas carols with his family. So I realized the future version of myself would be doing something completely different than the version of myself that I was being right then in that moment. And I realized, it dawned on me that the way to actually become $10 million David is not to figure out what I did wrong with this online marketing challenge and figure out how to fix it. It's to start being $10 million David now. And that if I can start being $10 million David now, 100% I am destined to produce the goals and the vision that I have. And this just makes sense. When I was in my drug and alcohol and sex addiction recovery, when I was acting like an addict and an alcoholic, the result that I got was addiction and alcoholism. Why? Because I was thinking, feeling, and doing like an addict. And if I wanted to gain recovery, if I wanted to be someone who recovered in my life and was not addicted to drugs and alcohol and pornography and all this stuff, I needed to start acting like a sober person. And so that's what I did. Through the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, I got into a program where I started acting like a person who was sober, and given enough time, I became sober. I mean, I want you to think about this for a moment. If you started acting like a millionaire on a consistent basis, meaning thinking like a millionaire, feeling like a millionaire, and doing the things a millionaire would do. I'm not saying spending the money a millionaire has, but doing all the other things a millionaire would do. Wouldn't it just be a matter of fact and a matter of time before you became a millionaire? So this is the key to identity shifting. And people talk about it as if it's a metaphysical concept or spiritual concept, and it is, this idea of identity shifting. You can find the Rosicrucians, you can find Hermetic principles, all the ancient wisdom stuff that talks about identity shifting, even in the 33 levels of the Masonic Lodge rituals and strategies for human development. It's all there. But it's also just basic behavioral psychology and neuroscience. If you start acting like a person who would have already produced the outcome, eventually you'll produce the outcome. So what do we have here on the whiteboard? Remember, you've got a line down the middle. So you've got a left column and a right column, and you've split the right column in half. And in the bottom right column, you've written your goals and dreams. This is what you want to accomplish. I would suggest you write down 5 to 7 things. I myself wrote down the amount of money in my bank account, overcoming chronic health challenges, becoming successful in business, 1 million monthly listeners on my podcast, and connected to my higher power. Then the question is, who are you being now? And when I ask this question, who are you being, what I'm wanting you to think about it is in terms of 3 categories. What are the regular thoughts that you have, meaning your beliefs? What are the emotions that you're regularly experiencing? And what are the things that you're regularly doing? So let's take a look at my list right here. Okay, I'm going to scoot over here for a second. My list. Over here, I'm stressed out and worrying a lot, right? I'm stressed out and worrying a lot. That's my emotional experience of life. What else is here? Working too hard. Working long hours, hustling, grinding, thinking if I could just work more, I could produce these results down here in the bottom right. And it's interesting because if you look at what is over here under sort of your current experience, what you're thinking, what you're feeling, what you're doing, these are what I call plays that you think that you're running that will produce these goals and dreams. In other words, even my worry, I think that by trying to find problems before they happen, that's a good strategy for producing this result, right? But how's it working out for me? The more I worry, the further away I get from producing these results. The more I hustle and grind, the further I seem to get from producing these results. What else is over here under my current state, my current version of myself, or what you could call, if you choose to take this up, your old self? Okay, for me, it's indecision and comparing, right? That's also on the board. I find myself worrying about whether I make the right decision or the wrong decision, and comparing myself to other people, like what are they doing? How are they producing results? Now, what we're going to see is if I had already produced these results, I wouldn't be engaged in any of these behaviors. We're going to take a look at who I would be if I had produced these results. But if I'm honest, if I'm rigorously honest with myself right now, and I take a look at what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling, what I'm doing, this is my list, right? It's on the left-hand side of the board. Another one I wrote here is not present or relaxed. That was such a great example of, where I was during that Christmas holiday period. Not present for my family, not able to relax, questioning, again, indecisiveness, like what did I do wrong? Stressed out and worried that if I can't get this result to produce itself through this marketing campaign, I'm not going to be able to get where I want to go, right? So this is another example. Not present, not calm, not relaxed. That was the state of this version of me. Feeling behind is another one. Constantly feeling like I wasn't as far along as I should be. That was a primary quality, a habit of thinking of my old self. And feeling like I don't have enough time. Therefore, not going to the gym, not meditating, not going out on walks, having opportunities to spend time with friends or family, but I can't because I need to work, right? That was a habit of this version of myself. And these are what I would call bad plays. These are the bad plays that your current identity is running, thinking that it's going to produce these goals and dreams. But actually, when you're honest with yourself and you look at it, this is what's preventing you from accomplishing these goals and dreams. Because a stressed out, unpresent, overworking, never relaxed, always feeling like he's behind, comparing himself to other people, indecisive, David Bayer, is unlikely to produce these results. So what I want you to do is be rigorously honest with yourself. Who are you being right now? in relationship to trying to accomplish your goals and dreams. And I want you to name that version of yourself. Where's over here? So I named it Worrywart David. This was the name that a babysitter once gave me when I was a 7-year-old kid. I guess I came into this world just a worrier. And she said, man, you worry about everything. You're like a worrywart, which was not the nicest thing to say to a 7-year-old, right? Great way to shame a child and traumatize him for the rest of his life. But this is who I was still being. So then I asked myself a question. This is the left. We've completely mapped out the left side of the board now. Your current identity, you have named it. These are the plays that you are running, trying to produce the goals and dreams that you have in the bottom right side of the piece of paper or the board. But this is not what's going to get you to your personal promised land. All right? Hey, it's David. Just a quick interruption to your regularly scheduled episode by your favorite sponsor, moi. I want to tell you about my book. It is available on Amazon right here, right now. A Changed Mind. Go beyond self-awareness, rewire your brain, and re-engineer your reality. In this little book are all the frameworks, the tools, the methodologies that I talk about on this show and that I've used to actually change my mind and that tens of thousands of other people have used to transform their bank accounts, their businesses, their relationships, their health, their spiritual connection, everything that you want to achieve. This is the way to achieve it. And Amazon has done us a good one right now. It's significantly discounted. So you can go and pick up your copy, or better yet, pick up a copy for a friend too. There's nothing better than giving the gift of transformation right now. Hop on over to Amazon. There's a link in the show notes. And if you love the book as much as I loved writing it for you, do me a favor. Let me know that and leave a review. And now back to your regularly scheduled episode. So now we look at, if you had already accomplished these things, and in my case, $1 million in my bank account, healthy body, successful entrepreneur, 1 million monthly listeners, connected to God. If all of those things were true, then who would I be? In that space, what would I be thinking? What would I be feeling? What would I be doing? And in relationship to the plays I'm running right now, well, let's take a look, right? That David, who had already accomplished all these things, rather than being stressed out and worried, would be relaxed and trusting. I'd be relaxed and trusting. Now, do you think if I was relaxed and trusting now, I'd have more or less chance of producing my goals and dreams? Clearly more, right? But where we get it wrong is, rather than trying to practice the person who can produce the results, we try to produce the results from the old identity running a bunch of shitty plays, right? But if I had already accomplished these things, I would be relaxed and trusting. Well, what else? What would I be doing if I had accomplished these things? Well, I'd be taking me time. I'd be going to the gym. I'd be meditating. I'd have space in my life. And now I know you might be sitting there thinking, Dave, you're telling, look, I've been broke. I got homes in foreclosure. I got credit card debt. I want to have $1 million in my bank account. You're telling me the way to do that is to meditate and to take time for myself and to go to the gym? I'm saying, yes, that's some of what you should be doing. You should also be putting in time and energy and effort towards producing the outcomes of your life. But if you're operating like I was from my old identity, it's not going to produce the results that you want. And so some of the most profound results the high-performing entrepreneurs that I coach have is a realization that they've been putting off a lot of things until they become more successful. But if they would actually just start doing those things now, that's the best business plan for creating the growth they want in their business. It's like, well, you're telling me that the way to actually make more money in my business or my life is to spend more time, be more present with my family, with my loved ones, and take care of myself. That's exactly what I'm telling you. Because that is what your future self would be doing if you had already produced the results. Therefore, practice being that person. What else? I'd be very decisive and self-confident, right? I'd make decisions. And I would know that, you know what? Every decision I make is not going to produce the outcome that I expect, but I can learn from the decision and the results, and then I can course correct, right? I would be confident because I had already produced the results. I wouldn't need to produce the results in order to justify myself. I would be showing up as someone who had 1 million podcast listeners right now, even if nobody was listening. Do you think if I was showing up with that level of authority, that level of confidence, that level of consistency in my work ethic? Think about it for a moment. I have over 1 million listeners a month now on this show, so I record regularly, right? Well, that just makes sense. Then that's what I should be doing even when nobody's listening to the show. And you know what? That's exactly what I did, which is why we have 1 million listeners a month on this show. I would be decisive. I would be self-confident. Well, what else? What other ways would I be thinking, feeling, and doing if I had already produced my goals and dreams that are sort of the opposite over here of the plays that I'm running today? Well, I'd be generous with my time, generous with my money, generous with my resources. This is one of the biggest breakthroughs a client of mine had when he came over and did a private session with me. He said, I want to grow my business, but what I realize is my future self would be more generous with money. Every time I tip at a restaurant, I don't tip that much because I feel like I don't have as much money as I need, but I have plenty of money right now. Yes, I want more, but my future self would be tipping generously. He's tripled his business now, and I can't say it's exclusively because he started tipping generously, but he started acting like the entrepreneur who had already tripled his business. That person would be generous with their time. That person would be generous with their money. And then life is generous with you. One more example here, and again, these are just my examples. You got to come up with your own. Consistently in action, right? And for example, recording. I already gave you the episode. I'd be recording things. A lot of times when we're in the old version of ourselves and we haven't produced the results yet, we procrastinate, we self-sabotage, we're not taking consistent action. When you're successful, you take consistent action. Why? Because you know that you can produce the results. You have produced the results. You've got evidence for that. That's exciting. So you take more action. That doesn't mean you have to hustle and grind. I am anti-hustle culture, but it means you would be taking consistent action because you believe in yourself and you know that with consistent action, you would produce results. So that would be another way of being, thinking, feeling that would be in alignment with the results that you want to produce, right? Would be in alignment with the version of you who's already produced the results. So I would call these the good plays, right? If over here on the left-hand side, we've got the bad plays, I would say over here we have the good plays. These are the good plays. If you can learn to run the good plays instead of the bad plays and give yourself enough time, be patient, 100% of the time you must produce the result. Whether that result is getting sober, whether that result is getting fit, whether that result is improving your relationship, whether that result is more success in your business or more money in your bank account. I want you to name that future version of yourself. So I did that here. I called it $10 million Dave. Remember I told you I was sitting in my living room going, what would $10 million Dave be doing right now? Then that's what I should be doing right now. If I can practice $10 million Dave, practice that identity, I can shift my identity and the results are the byproduct of that shift. And where a lot of people get stuck here is they're like, well, I can't just be $10 million Dave today because I don't have the $10 million. I can't just get on my private jet and fly around. Well, guess what? Flying around in your private jet is not an identity. It's an activity. It's a thing that you do. But what are all the other things in terms of how you think, how you feel, and the actions you can take that would be aligned with $10 million you, right? The version of you that had already produced the results that you're aspiring to achieve. This is identity shifting. And if you can make this, if you can get clear, these are the bad plays that I'm running, so I'm going to stop running them. These are the good plays that are congruent with producing the results, so I'm going to start running those. Given a period of time, 100% of the time, you'll produce the results. And think about it. If I was relaxed and trusting, taking time for myself, decisive and self-confident, generous with my time and my money and my resources, and consistently in action and doing the things that I believe would produce the results. Aren't those the right plays to produce the future that I want? And so we can see when we map this out, really the insanity of the game that we've been playing. This idea that like, I'm going to worry myself and indecisive myself and compare myself and criticize myself and work myself to the bone to produce the results, it's a crazy way to play the game. So every successful person that you've seen when they've made this like quantum leap in success, this is the game that they've been playing. It's not that they've figured some magic pill strategy to produce the result. It's that they identified who they were that no longer served them and allowed that old self to die and started practicing being alive within the new or future version of themselves. This is the way to play the game. And if you want my help playing the game, it's really easy. Jump on over to davidbear.com, subscribe to our newsletter, check out Mind Hack and the Whole Human Framework, our 2 flagship courses. We've got a bundle right now for a discount. Check them out. Literally the frameworks beyond this session on identity shifting that can help you stay in the practice, maintain consistency, and produce the results that you want to produce. And if you haven't yet, do me a favor, subscribe. If you're listening on the audio platforms, leave me a rating and review. If you're listening here, subscribe. That's the way you can pay us for this extraordinary content that my team and I produce on a regular basis. Like we receive not Bitcoin, just subscribers. And leave me a comment. Share this episode with somebody who needs to hear it. I love you so much. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity to share with you a real true technique that has allowed me to go from where I was to where I am today. I'm very grateful for it. I'm very grateful for you, and I will see you in the next episode.